Hello, I am Cryo, and this will be part one of a new series, a Legend of Zelda Linked Universe series. The artist, or author, why do I keep saying artist? I don't know why. But the author of this series is Mumix21. I did get permission, so don't worry about that. I did get permission. There's about 80 plus works in this series. So it's going to be a long trip, a long series. This is. What is happening? Okay, sorry, it did something weird. But. This will be part one. Embers of Mipha's Grace by Mumix21. Summary. The group didn't know several things. Some involved Wild, some four. The next 24 hours was going to be interesting. Of course, only if Wild didn't murder any of her overprotective idiots for brothers before that. I did this in the wrong order. Sorry, it's been a little bit since I've had to read the tags and stuff. So, rating, teen and up audiences, no archive warnings apply, category F-M. I'm not quite sure what that means, but if you do, let me know in the comments down below. The fandoms, Legend of Zelda and related fandoms, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Relationship, Link and Prince Sidon. Characters, Wild, Linked Universe, Twilight, Linked Universe, Wind, Linked Universe, Hyrule, Linked Universe, Time, Linked Universe, Legend, Linked Universe, Sky, Linked Universe, 4, Linked Universe, Warriors, Linked Universe, Blue, Linked Universe, Green, Linked Universe, Violink, Red Link. Additional tags, Female Wild, Cooking, Mipha's Grace, Legend of Zelda, Panic Attacks, Favorite Dishes. This is a setup chapter. Next chapter will be better. I promise. Mew mixes Vio. That will make sense later. Linked Universe, Legend of Zelda, Beta Red. It's in English, which I greatly appreciate. But, yeah. Again, sorry for it's out of order. Notes. This is my least favorite chapter of the whole thing I've written so far, so I hope you'll continue reading as I have a lot of fun planned. Warning, misgendering will occur over the first couple of chapters. Not malicious, but will take a little while to be fixed. Anyway, here's the first bit. I hope you all enjoy. All of this is inspired by JoJo's Linked Universe comic loosely, as I didn't know the comic existed until the 11th installment in this series. It's really good, and everyone who likes Linked Universe things should read it. See the end of the work for more notes. Honestly, I personally really enjoyed this one. So, yeah, that's just me. Okay, jumping into it. Working on dinner, Wild tried to ignore the others as they insisted on helping her make dinner. Something they had never done before. They were treating her like she was going to keel over any moment to break. Mipha's Grace had worked. She was fine, perfectly fine. Let me stir, Wild. Time didn't give her an option to say no, as he physically took the spoon she was about to use out of her hand. Wild barely suppressed a growl. They were all hovering around her. She was fine. There was no reason to treat her like she was something delicate or needing to be protected from her own cooking pot. She went to take the pumpkins that Wild had insisted on cutting up for her. They were all uneven and wouldn't cook right, but Legend beat her to them. So, do I put them and the other vegetables all in, or just certain amounts or types of vegetables? Wild wanted to scream. Everything but the peppers that are still being seared. Glancing at the spicy peppers that Sky was watching, she stopped herself from grabbing the spatula from him and possibly using it to injure someone before fixing the peppers. Flip the peppers and rotate them. Like this? He flipped the first pepper. It almost fell off the cooking slate she had tried to set on the fire before Legend had taken it for her and done it instead. So the slate wasn't even on a good spot to absorb the heat and sear the peppers. Breathe in, breathe out. Violence is not the answer. I will not harm my brothers. I will not harm my brothers. Keep them more in the middle. When Sky nodded, she grabbed her slate, taking some Hyrule herbs and Goron spice. Wind grabbed her mortal and pestle when it appeared. Can I do this? It always looked cool. It wasn't a question. She wasn't going to strangle her brother. She began pulling off pieces of the herb and placing it in the pestle. Sure. Thanks, brother. Wind's grin stretched across his face. She physically flinched, unable to stop it. The wrongness of the gender that had been forced on her always hurt the worst after Mipha's healing, especially if she saw Mipha. She both hated seeing her because of that, and desperately clung to every glimpse she can get of any of the champions. Mipha being the hardest of those to glimpse, made every glimpse even more bittersweet, especially with what needed to happen for her to see Mipha. Twilight stepped forward, placing the back of his hand against her forehead, lips tight, obviously concerned. Are you okay? Nothing's wrong? Do you need anything? Water, maybe? His eyes narrowed. You don't feel warm. Mipha's power always left her feeling cold, which was one of the 2 reasons she was making warm pumpkin curry. Fine, Sky, take the peppers off and bring them over. She had motioned for Sky to bring the peppers to her. Instead, he gave them straight to warriors. She would not scream. So, what should I do with these? Breathe in, breathe out. She used her fingers to illustrate. Cut them this thin. As warriors began cutting the peppers up, she glanced around the group. Noticing Wind was done, she motioned for him to drop the herbs into the stew, knowing she wouldn't be allowed near the fire. Looking at the fire forced her to see the smiling Time stirring the soup just a little too slow. She had given up on getting him to go the right speed halfway through the meal preparation. Too slow was better than too fast. Some bits might burn, but he wasn't going too slow, and he wasn't at risk of sloshing the soup out of the pot. To distract herself from the subpar meal prep, she glanced around the camp. It was coming together slower than normal. 4 in Hyrule were the only ones setting up camp. Hyrule, because they were not allowed near the cooking pot, even with everyone insisting on bothering him. Since there was nowhere near her to hover, he had been forced to focus on something else. 4, or well, Vio, from the eye color, was actually acting normally. They were the only person acting normally, something she was desperately grateful for. She needed to have at least one person acting normal, or she would have blown up at everyone already. Seeing Vio moving her bedroll to the edge of the group again was one of the only things keeping her sane. She decided Vio, and the rest of 4, were her favorite right now, as they told Hyrule off for trying to move her bedroll into the middle of the group again. 4 was the second reason she picked this dish. All of them would love this dish. Wald liked it well enough, but the others? They would hate it. She wasn't sure if all of them would be able to stomach eating it. This was a sort of petty revenge for all the hovering. It would definitely be interesting to see their faces when they tried to dish the dish, and to see if they blamed their lack of cooking skills, or on the dish she had picked for dinner being so unpalatable to the group. At least, for them. Vio glared at Hyrule. Wild will not be able to sleep there, but it's not safe outside the group. Seeing as Wild normally sleeps there, and it's never been a problem before, I don't see your point. There was a brief pause as Hyrule looked at him pathetically. 4 sighed. What if I put him next to Time and Twilight? I guess there's a spot in between them. I said next to, not between. They will be outside the circle, which makes them comfortable, but I can put Wild closer to Time and Twilight than normal if I must. But you remember what happened in the stable in their Hyrule. The fact that they only slept when Twilight was next to the bed. How Twilight was still almost too slow to stop the assassin pretending to be asleep in the next bed over. Yeah, what about it? Wild doesn't feel safe sleeping in between people. During Wild's quest, they needed to be able to quickly roll away from any attack that could have come from an unseen threat. Wild needs to be able to escape in whatever direction they want to or need to. It's something that's kept Wild alive during their quest. But he doesn't need to worry about that here. Tell that to Wild's instincts. They do the same thing at Time's Place, although Wild has started to relax there more at least. The only place I've seen them sleep without worry is in the Zora domain. He does seem happier around there. He's always so excited to see the prince. Do you think Time's wife will be back from her trip if we make it back to Time's Place again? Blushing, Wild looked back toward the cooking pot. She hadn't thought anyone had noticed how relaxed she was in the domain. Vio's odd assistant... Is that supposed to be insistence? I'm gonna look up the definition of that. Okay, I think they meant insistence. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. My bad. But, back to it. Vio's odd insistence on referring to her with gender-neutral pronouns was slightly refreshing. It was better than masculine pronouns, at least. It was probably a carried-over tic from how they referred to themselves, because it wasn't something Four did. Although Vio didn't really do it with anyone but her. Shaking her head, she turned back to dinner. The pot was bubbling nicely. Put the peppers and the Goron spice in, just a few pinches. She watched as Wynn's few pinches was instead one several-finger grab. Well, this was going to be a bit hotter than planned. As soon as the spices are fully mixed in, dinner will be ready. When the curry finished, Twilight grabbed bowls and started dishing out dinner. She did her best to ignore how he tried to make sure her curry had cooled off some before giving it to her. It was decent. It would have been better if she had been left alone to cook, like normal. The dish, warm pumpkin curry, was something she rarely made, and when she did it... And when she did, it was only for Four. She'd make something else for everyone else. But it was what they most enjoyed when they were sick. She had never fed it to the whole group, as they would all be put off by the dish. The lack of meat would bother Warriors, Twilight, and Legend. The spiciness of the dish, which actually turned out hotter than she planned, as Wind had added much more Goron spice than told, had Twilight, Hyrule, and Wind reaching for water. The fact that the spicy dish was also warming, a real trick to manage, bothered Time and Sky. The pumpkin, only Legend hated, but she settled on it as the only vegetable that all of Four liked. Four was congratulating them all on the delicious food, eyes changing colors as they all took turns to have a taste. The others glared, most probably thinking Four was making fun of them. Well, they thought that until they saw Four going in for a second helping, something they rarely did, let alone thirds they were now scarfing down. The rest had barely made it through half a bowl at most when they attempted to keep grimaces off their faces. She sighed. They had seen her die for the first time, although it was obvious now that she was perfectly fine. The group had gotten separated with the last portal change. She had been on her own in a large field of enemies. She had used up the champion's powers. Well, not Rivali's, as she hadn't had the time to even pull out her paraglider, let alone have enough time to activate his power, and defeated most of the monsters when they had found her. Then, the Bokoblin had gotten that lucky swing in, and everything went to crap. And now she was here, eating slightly crunchy, overly spiced soup. She missed Sidon. He hadn't been like this when he first saw her for the first time, and he had even just seen his sister's spirits healing her. When she said she was okay afterwards, he believed her, simply saying he was glad she was okay. That was it. None of this silent hovering, watching her every move, as if she was going to fall over dead at any moment. She was fine. There was no need for all of this. Finishing her bowl, Sky took it from her to wash. This left her sitting with the rest of the group looking at her. Even 4 had one worried, red-eyed glance at her, before Vaya was placed back in charge. There faced the calmness she needed from someone in the group. Vaya attempted to get the group to start a conversation about their favorite pranks. Unfortunately, the group ignored their efforts. Twilight's voice was thick, eyes a little damp as he stared at her. "What happened back there, cub?" She shrugged, looking away from the group, playing with the hem of her shirt. "There was a fight, I got injured, I healed, and we won." "You died!" "Sorry." Surprised at the amount of raw emotion in the statement, she spoke without thinking. "It's not like it's the first time." There was a sudden echoing silence, even Vaya looking shocked for a moment before pulling back on the calm expression. Wild moved her hands along the edge of her shirt as she waited for someone to speak, to respond. Twilight, unsurprisingly, was the one that broke the silence. "Please tell me you're just talking about the time that ended with you ending up in the Shrine of Resurrection." She bit her lip, shifting in place, unable to look at anyone. "Mipha gave me her grace after I set her spirit free." Wynn's eyes widened. "Holy fish, man. How many times have you died?" Her voice was short, the wrong gender grinding at her nerves. "Can't remember." There was a long silence before Twilight swallowed. "Please say that's because of your memory problems. I never saw that when I was with you on your adventure." She didn't answer. How could she? She had stopped counting. The number of times didn't matter. All that mattered was that she was alive to fight another day. She had been careful that Wolfie never saw her, even risking needing Mipha's aid. Warriors coughed, drawing everyone's attention to him. I'm just thinking of your battle strategy. You don't rely on this power in battle, right? The way you throw yourself into battle often seems like you don't feel fear death. His voice grew tight. "Please, brother, please say you don't rely on this power in battle." How could he think she would do that to Mipha? She wanted to speak, but her words wouldn't come. When she attempted to sign, she barely got out a very definite no, before her shaking prevented her from signing anything else. 4 growled, eyes green. "Can't you tell you're overwhelming them? Give Wild a chance to calm down. They'll tell us what they're willing to share when they're ready." He physically turned from her to trying to distract everyone. "Did I ever tell you about the time I fought a monster with a giant needle?" None of the others had turned away from Wild. Twilight's voice was hoarse. "Cub, please." Her lungs burned. She couldn't breathe. It was too bright. Everyone was looking at her. She ran. Ignoring anything that came from behind her, she ran. She just needed to get away. When the noises finally faded, she stopped so suddenly that she fell into a bush. She still couldn't breathe. Without getting out of the bush, she hugged her legs to herself, hiding her face as she just tried to breathe, trying to focus on in and out. They were all disappointed in her. She was always disappointing everyone. Over 100 years ago, then again after she woke up. It took her so long to defeat the calamity after she awoke. Who knew how many people were lost because she was too weak to face the calamity when she woke up? How many people had she failed? Her friends from back then, having to wait on her for over 100 years. People she barely remembered, gave her their powers after she failed them back then. Failed everyone. It took her so long to fulfill her destiny. She always left people waiting on her. She was always disappointing everyone. And now the chain was disappointed in her. Just how she always knew they would be. Yay! Okay. Notes. Constructive criticism enjoyed, even if it's just, hey, this is a bit weird to read, might need to be fixed. Spelling is not a strong skill of mine. Any comments on the actual story would best be made after reading the next chapter. Thanks for reading. So, that is chapter 1, I suppose, of Mew-Mix's Link Universe Adventures. I really, really like this chapter, I guess. I personally think it displays the overprotectiveness of the chain. Granted, there is probably a lot more later on, because I cannot remember all 80-something chapters off the top of my head. But still, I loved it. Honestly, Mew-Mix is one of my favorite Legend of Zelda Link Universe authors. So, I'm still sick, which is probably why my voice is a bit odd. Let me know down in the comments what you think I can do better. And yeah. I will see you another day. Not see you, but you know what I mean. Bye.